Many of the people treated at the sanctuary of Asclepius traveled there from the magnificent city-state of Athens, which lay about 150 miles to the northeast of Epidavros. Athens was named for the goddess of wisdom, Athena, and her fantastic temple, called the Parthenon, which is seen here, looms above the city from where it stands in the ancient Acropolis. Inside the Parthenon there once was an enormous gold and ivory statue of Athena, made by the same sculptor who fashioned the statue of Zeus at Olympia. And during religious festivals, this statue was draped in a special garment woven by the women of the city. Next to the Parthenon, this temple, called the Erechtheion, with its famous porch supported by statues of Greek maidens, was built on the spot where the royal palace of the kings of ancient Athens once stood. The last king of Athens to live on this site was named Codrus. After Codrus died in 1066 BC, fighting to save the city from the invading Dorians, the Athenians decided that no one person could ever take the place of such a great king, and so the monarchy was replaced by an oligarchy, ruled by a small group of men from noble families. Then in 594 BC, a great statesman named Solon founded a parliament, a people's law court, and a council of the people, changing the way the oligarchy governed Athens so that power was more equally shared by all her citizens. However, it was this man, Pericles, who was responsible for developing, for the first time in history, a government by the people, starting in the year 461 BC, following Athens' great victory over the invading armies of Persia. Under democracy and the guidance of Pericles, Athens flourished, and with the help of some of the greatest artists and scholars in human history, the city grew both in wealth and in beauty. And so Athens entered her brief but magnificent Golden Age. Most of the spiritual life of Athens centered on the temples located high above the city in the Acropolis. And the sight of these temples always served to remind the citizens of the great goodness and wisdom of Athena, their protector. Located far below the Acropolis was the marketplace, whose ruins are seen here, that was once ringed with government buildings, a library, and a gymnasium. And on a low hill overlooking the marketplace, they built this fine temple to the god of fire and metalworking, Hephaestus. For very near this temple, there were in ancient times a large number of workshops where gifted craftsmen labored who sought the guidance and protection of this god. And looking across the marketplace from the temple of the god of fire is the great stoa of Attalus, where citizens congregated to discuss such things as politics, prices, their families, and the weather. As city-states went, Athens was quite large, and it encompassed much of the lower end of the Attica Peninsula. And here, at the extreme southern end of the city-state, and overlooking an important sea route, this marvelous temple was constructed at just about the same time the Parthenon was being built, around 444 BC. This temple honored one of the three greatest of the Olympian gods, Poseidon, the god of the sea, and it is his statue we see here. Sailors returning to Athens after a long voyage to the east could see this temple from far out on the water, and seeing it always meant that they would be home soon, and for this they always gave thanks to Poseidon. As we have learned, Athens during its golden age was quite a fantastic place, and yet there were certain flaws in the Athenian democracy. The same flaws that were to be found the next time people tried to institute this form of government, 2,200 years later, during the early years of the United States. Namely, only men were allowed to vote, and women had no legal voice in decision-making at all. And the slaves, who were bought and sold like animals, had no rights whatsoever, even though they made up a large part of the population. The Golden Age ended mostly because of an outbreak of war in 431 BC between Athens and her powerful enemy Sparta, a highly militaristic city-state a few hundred miles to the south. A war that ended 27 years later with the defeat of Athens. And although Athenian civilization was not completely destroyed by this war, it never fully regained the glory that it possessed during its golden age.